Hey everyone, welcome back to our little corner of YouTube here at the November System channel. I'm Nova, the combination between Hope and Nova Hashimoto, because we are actually in California right now at our parents' house, and things just get a little swishy when we're here. So I just wanted to kind of explain that to you a little bit before we get started with the actual video content. But today I'm going to be giving our kind of experienced and researched but unprofessional opinion description of what DID is. This video topic has been highly requested on our TikTok, so if you haven't followed us there, then go ahead and do that. It is Nova and co.us on TikTok, and then we also have some similar content on our Instagram, but more so related to art, and that's novaandco.art on Instagram, and then we have a second art account on TikTok where you can see similar things, and we have some other DID content there, as well as explanations for more niche things that are a little bit simpler to explain. So if you need any of those answers, feel free to follow us there. If you just like our content in general, again, similar content here as to TikTok, but just different formats. So you're welcome to follow us either place. But for this video, I'm going to specifically be talking about how DID is formed, how it has kind of manifested in my life, and how people end up usually discovering their systems, as well as like my story about that. So let's get started. This video is going to be talking about the formation of both OSDD and DID. OSDD 1A, just to be specific, is going to be the one where you have less distinct alters in the system, but still typical DID amount of amnesia. OSDD 1B is where you have more distinct alters like DID typically would have, but you don't have as much amnesia. And then there's other forms of OSDD, but those are the ones that are specific to systems. And then of course DID has both the distinct alters, the amnesia, and then just the other kind of symptoms that align with that, which I'll talk about as we get through the video. But basically, DID is a trauma-based disorder formed in early childhood, typically between the ages of 6 and 9. The reason DID has to be formed between those ages is because that is when a usual child, typical child, any child that you find between the age of 6 and 9 is going to be around the age where they start fusing their identity into one personality. All children start out with multiple ego states. They are not fully formed personalities, and they're not alters, because alter stands for alternate state of consciousness. However, they are different, and they do provide their own role in childhood. But between the ages of 6 and 9 is when the child's brain will usually start to fuse those ego states into one personality, and that's how most people develop. However, in people with DID, there is something in their childhood that has come between these ego states fusing. So usually that is trauma of some sort. For the theory that I'm talking about, which is the theory of structural dissociation, it is trauma. This is the theory that is most scientifically sound and most recognized right now by scientists as what is the most probable cause of DID. So that's the one that we're going to be sticking with. So when these ego states are unable to fuse, they grow up alongside each other, experiencing the body's life at different points. They are meant to be hidden from each other and from just society in general. You're not really supposed to know that you have DID. It's designed by your brain to be as seamless as possible so that the child can get through whatever they need to get through, the trauma that's happening to them, which is usually repeated and like goes on for a long time, or at least enough time that the child has to have a different mode for that trauma to be able to handle it. That could be able to help them cope physically, it could be there to help them cope emotionally, but the trauma is something that the child's brain felt it probably wouldn't survive unless they had separate alters in order to ensure that the child could remain somewhat in a normal circumstance, have a hopefully happy life. If you just separate those memories, separate those identities, and make it so that the child doesn't have to deal with all of the trauma right then as a child while it's not developed enough to deal with that stuff. DID is something that is also commonly comorbid with autism. I have autism and DID. Personally, I think that a lot of my trauma and the reason that I have DID is probably compounded by my autism and the ways that my autism made it not super easy for my brain to process emotions or understand what was going on as a child. So I think that a lot of that has to do with So for those of you who don't know, autism is something that can sometimes make it hard to understand what people mean by things, or make it hard to get the whole vibe of like conversations and meanings behind things that may or may not be completely true and wholehearted. And I think that in my childhood, the reason I developed DID, or at least one of the reasons, because there was a lot, was because of the fact that the things that were happening to me were kind of blown up a little bit by the fact that my childhood brain did not have the chance yet to understand that some things are completely meant and other things are just kind of jokes or just like empty threats or whatever. But a lot of those things were things that as a child I took to heart, and trauma is something that is perceived. So there's no such thing as something that's not traumatic enough for it to be trauma. If something made a child feel like they were in danger or in need of help, then that's enough. If they were scared enough to have it impact them for a long time after it happened, then that's trauma. I'm not going to get into any specifics here, but basically there's no such thing as that's not trauma. Like, if you feel like you were traumatized by something, that's the definition. Like, it's not, oh, you have to do this or else you're not traumatized, or like you're not telling the truth because that wasn't that bad. Well, okay, maybe it wasn't that bad for you, but this other person felt like that was like the end of their whole world. So like, it's completely perceived, and that's how DID can be so different in every system, within every system and between systems, because it's gonna be however the person is reacting to the situation. It's not necessarily about the facts, it's about how did that impact them. And maybe they thought about that every day for the rest of their lives. Maybe that was like their reason for changing their course of life. Like, you never know how something can impact someone. And I don't know, I think it's a good lesson of just like, I mean, say what you need to say, do what you need to do, but like, just treat others with care so that hopefully they will be able to take what you are giving them the way that it's meant and in as least harmful way as possible, because while not everything is traumatic, it's just better that way. Nobody needs the hassle. So I hope that makes a little bit of sense about how the trauma is formed. But basically, that trauma kind of separates those ego states like I was talking about before, and then it makes it so that they don't combine. And then as that child grows up, each of those ego states kind of go about life at different times and will take those experiences and make their own personalities with them, except they're all in one body. So like, say I'm just going about my life. Okay, I have memories from my 7th birthday party. I have memories from that time I got bit by a rabbit. I have memories from my best friend who was really nice to me. So, and that makes a personality, right? I mean, obviously it's more than that, but like in general, you know, people have those experiences that form their personality, and all of our memories make up ourselves. But when you have different alters who experience different things, so now you have a DID system. This person experienced the 7th birthday party. This person experienced the time they got bit by a rabbit. And this person experienced the time their best friend was really nice to them. So this person ends up becoming trusting and really good in social situations. This person gets overwhelmed by large crowds, but in general, they seek out friendship. And then this person is afraid of rabbits. I don't know, very simple, kind of basic things that someone could experience, and of course very basic descriptions of their personalities. Like, none of those are full personalities in themselves, but they can, as they grow and experience more things, they're gonna like get more and more separated because they've experienced less of the same things. And now this person experienced the fact that someone bullied them in school. They're gonna still have that fear of large crowds and seek friendship, but now they have less self-worth because of their bullying. This person they have no memory of the bullying, so they're still trusting and love interacting with people. They don't get as worried around people, and this is someone that would probably be something like a host of a system or a social alter. This person would probably be someone that's more of an emotional part. They get triggered by things and then they come out to deal with the sad or confused or angry or scared emotions of social situations. This person will probably be somewhat of a physical protector, someone who is around when things get physically scary, or if they get harmed, they might get triggered out, or if, say, this one falls off their bike, they get a scratch in the same spot the rabbit bit them. This person's gonna be like, oh my god, a rabbit bit me there. Come out and be like, oh, I know how to deal with this situation now because I have that experience, but this person doesn't. So it kind of ends up being like everyone in the system has a job, and sometimes those jobs aren't so clear just because sometimes life events aren't so clear, but it ends up helping the person as one to function in life, even though they're not going to have the memories and emotional memories. They're not going to be able to connect with certain things as easily as other people would be able to, even within their own life. So this is why DID becomes a disorder, why it becomes difficult to live with DID rather than to not. It seems like it would be very helpful. It's made to be helpful, but it's made to be helpful for things that are life-threatening and traumatic. It tries to be helpful in things that are just regular life activities, but the fact that there's still that separation between alters makes it actually counterintuitive and harder for a person with DID, OCD, etc. to live with the normal stuff because their brain has been conditioned to function with the traumatic stuff. So that sounds like it would be really difficult, or maybe it doesn't sound like that to you, but whatever you think of it, it can be really hard, but it can also work. It's meant to work. So if it functions as it should, then there's less chance of it impacting the person's life later on so drastically. But oftentimes when you grow up, you learn how to deal with things differently. You start to heal from the things that happened before, and during that time your brain is like, oh no, this is different. Maybe you should know about these people in your brain now. And sometimes you can learn about them through other people telling you, or sometimes they reveal themselves to you because your brain brings down walls a little bit for amnesia. But whatever case it is, there's lots of different ways someone might find out that they have a system, but all of those things are going to be different for each system, and even between alters in one system, because every single alter is formed for a reason. So, and you're probably not going to find out every one at once. Like when I discovered my system, for example, the first person that I knew for sure was an alter was Jeremy. I was like, because he showed up in my brain and he was like, yo, I've been here for a bit. And I was like, what is going on? But now I have both found and split other alters since then, and now our system is like in the 20s, I want to say, as far as like how many alters there are. I can't remember the number from our last head count, but it's somewhere in the 20s. And I might tell you guys more about my alters in another video if that's something that you guys would like. But you don't discover everyone at once, and alters can continue to split as you get older from things like new trauma, things like reoccurring flashbacks. If you try to heal yourself in the wrong way or try to do it all on your own without professional help, then it can end up just re-traumatizing you, just bringing back those flashbacks so much that it just re-traumatizes your brain. Or you can experience something similar, and then even if your brain as an adult would be like, oh, this is fine, your brain as a child, since it hasn't processed that before, is now re-traumatized by something similar and creates new splits, etc. So unfortunately, it does create probably more hassle and just trouble going about life as you get older, although you do find out more about it, hopefully, as you get older, and you find out more about your system, hopefully get to know alters, get to understand what works and what doesn't for you. This is why it is so important to work with professionals as you're understanding your system, because they can keep you on a track that hopefully is going to give you more healing than re-traumatization. Re-traumatization is just going to get you more and more alters, more and more triggers, and less time to live life the way you want to be living it, and more time living life in a state of fight or flight, fight, flight, fawn, freeze, etc. There's definitely ways to get past it. There's no cure for DID. Some people have the goal of being fully fused into one identity. As alters heal, they can integrate, which is bringing down amnesic barriers, or fuse, which is becoming one and probably still bringing down those amnesic barriers. But some people would like to fuse all of their alters together, and that's a system decision. That's something that is made by the system and is something that shouldn't be pushed onto anybody. The other option is functional multiplicity, which is where alters stay separate and continue their jobs, but have systems in place like notes or video collabs between alters so that they can communicate, or having a Discord channel where you talk to your other alters with like Plural Kit or something, which Plural Kit creators we don't really stand, but it's still a helpful app. But either way, it's things like that where you hopefully can find ways to make your life a little bit easier while still having alters doing their individual jobs. So that's basically how DID forms and how it exists throughout life. As far as figuring out your system, like I said, that can be information given to you by a professional. You may not even know until a professional tells you. You may figure out later in life. Your system may have developed where you always knew that you had people in your head, but you never really did anything about it, thought it was normal, etc. There's some cases where it's like that, although it's more common to just have no clue at all. And then you could also have a friend be like, oh, by the way, it seems like you're having some like distinct changes in your personality. Maybe you should talk to someone about that. If you feel like anything is not going well for you, then talk to a professional. If you have the ability to talk to a professional, and they can probably help you figure out the best way to go about your life so that you feel the happiest and you feel the most productive and just the best in general. And if you don't have DID, you have something else, or maybe you're just having some life issues, either way, just chat with a professional. They can tell you what needs to be done. They can hopefully give you some insight as to the fact that you're not alone in what you're dealing with. Either way, it's gonna be a lot easier to deal with when you have someone that knows what they're talking about. That being said, not all professionals are going to be exactly what you need, and if there's situations where you need to switch professionals, do not feel bad. They are there to help you, and if they're not doing that, then they can help someone else, and you can find a different person that will help you. Stuff like that it's so personal, so it's much easier to decide for yourself. But talk to people, reach out for help, do some research if you have to, or if you feel like that might be necessary. It is okay. You'll be okay. Try to get some assistance so that you don't have to be doing it alone. And if there's no professional assistance out there that you can afford or that you have access to, just try to reach out to the people around you, and hopefully there will be someone that is able to just lend you a little bit of support because it is super important. Everyone's always welcome here. Of course, my channel and my TikTok are super safe spaces for things like that. I would not recommend like trauma dumping in comment sections or anything like that, especially without asking. But of course, there's plenty of people here that are probably dealing with a lot of the same things you are. Most of the time, they are willing and ready to just be reached out to. Obviously, maintain boundaries, but we are a community for a reason. There is support in community, and you are welcome in my community. With that being said, that was everything that I planned on talking about in this video. I really enjoyed talking to you guys, and I hope to see you in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe and like the video so that we can get more content out to you, hopefully every week, although sometimes I do have to take a little break. But thank you guys. Love you so much. And